Hello, everyone. I'm Craig Edwards, Head of Development here in the Faculty of Law. I've recently succeeded Maureen O'Neill, who many of you will have come to know well over the years. She leaves very big shoes to fill, and I am looking forward to working with our alumni myself. I am delighted to introduce Professor John Armour, Dean of the Faculty of Law and Professor of Law and Finance. However, I am sure that for many of you, John needs no introduction at all, particularly for those of you who were taught by him on the Masters in Law and Finance. John has held prestigious posts at a number of universities, including Cambridge, Auckland, Chicago, and Columbia Law School, to name but a few. He has published extensively, with a particular focus on exploring the integration of legal and economic analysis, with an emphasis on the impact on the real economy of changes in company law, corporate insolvency law, and financial regulation. John has also been involved in a number of policy-related projects, commissioned by, among others, the World Bank, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the Department of Trade and Industry. Today, John will be sharing his insights on the integration of AI within legal services and the innovations and opportunities that this promises.
Thank you, Craig. And let me say how delighted I am to be able to deliver my first Dean's Alumni webinar. And it's just fantastic to have so many of our alumni join us from around the world today. I'm really excited to be able to share with you some results from my recent work on the application of AI in legal services. So this is from a project that I led spanning 5 departments in the university. So it was a multidisciplinary research project that was funded by the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. And the particular question that I'm going to speak about today, the motivation for this was, how will new technologies such as AI reshape the work of lawyers and the structure of law firms? So this was an incredibly topical question when we began the research in 2019, and if anything, it's become even more topical since then in the light of developments in AI technology in the interim. So starting point for thinking about this question is the diversity of views. So when we talk to people about the future of the legal profession and the engagement with technology, we get perspectives that, broadly speaking, fall into one of 2 camps. There are those like Richard Susskind who argue that technology is going to transform legal services. So a quote from a piece he wrote in 2018, he said, "There's no obvious reason that many of today's professionals won't be displaced by increasingly capable systems and then fade from prominence, much as blacksmiths, tallow chandlers, mercers, and many trades became redundant in their day." If you don't know what tallow chandlers or mercers are, you can Google that. And that's just an indication of how far from relevance those trades fell with the advance of technology. So Suskind's position is that technological change is going to wipe away much of the activity of today's professionals. In contrast, there's a perspective, I think, well articulated by Remus and Levy in 2017, who say that even where automation has made significant progress, its impact has been less than the headlines would have us believe. So we could summarize this view as saying there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of puffery in the discussion of what impact technology will have, and for the foreseeable future, it's not going to transform activity. So in between these 2 end cases, there are a range of different perspectives. And so what we wanted to do was to understand the way in which AI was being deployed. And to do that, we carried out interviews with over 50 professionals working in law firms, working in alternative legal service providers, working in legal tech startups, and working in in-house teams about the deployment of AI in legal services. And we also carried out a questionnaire, which we sent to 10,000 solicitors with the assistance of the Law Society. So I'll talk today about the findings from this research and look at the implications of what we found, firstly for the work of lawyers, secondly for the structure of law firms, and thirdly for the legal services sector. So let's begin with the impact on lawyers. If we look at the literature in economics on the way in which advances in technology impact work in general, so this is not with respect to any particular sector, but there's a general literature in economics called The Future of Work. And this talks about the role of technology in changing the work that people do. So there are three dimensions of change. And the conversation that most of us have about AI in legal services focuses just on the first of these dimensions. And that's what we call the substitution effect. So technology substitutes for humans in relation to some tasks. And that's the point that Susskind is making in the quote that I referenced at the beginning. The conversation that we have is usually about whether a machine will do the work that is done by humans. But the future of work literature in economics makes clear that there are two other important dimensions of change that technology brings for human tasks. So the second is for those tasks for which technology can't yet do the work, then the technology that does the simpler tasks complements the work of humans, and so it makes them more productive. So to put this another way, the substitution for humans in relation to tasks that can be automated means that the humans doing the tasks that can't yet be automated can do more of that work because they don't have to do the stuff now that can be done by machines. And so their productivity increases. So that's the complementarity effect, that the technology augments the productivity, enhances the productivity of humans who are doing tasks that can't yet be automated. The third dimension is creating new tasks. So and this is something that isn't obvious when we first think about the role of technology. But the point to understand is that technical systems don't just fall from the sky and get deployed in professional work. There's actually a lot of need for humans to design, implement, calibrate, and quality control and interpret the results of those systems. And these are new tasks that weren't traditionally done in the sector in which the technology is applied. So the humans doing this, they are in turn augmenting the technology. They're making the technology work better, and the application of technology is creating new roles. So thinking about these three dimensions, if we apply it to legal services, we can broadly characterize it as follows. So in the middle is the substitution dimension. And here, the work that is most easily substituted is work that is repetitive and that is scalable, text-based work. So work for which there are precedents that AI systems can learn from, and then where that learning can be deployed at scale to produce outputs more cheaply than humans could do. On the left-hand side is the complementarity, where lawyers who are doing activities that technical systems can't do, and the areas most central to this still are client work, so meetings with clients, face-to-face meetings that involve all sorts of non-verbal cues. There's no prospect of AI being able to do this anytime soon, or work that is really one-off or bespoke, which there aren't prior examples that an AI system can be trained on. Lawyers doing this work find their productivity is enhanced by the technology doing the work in the substitution category. On the right-hand side are the new roles. So the systems themselves are augmented, they're made more effective by lawyers working in multidisciplinary teams to make those systems work. So people with legal skills need to work in teams with other types of professional to deploy this technology. And we can distinguish the role of human lawyers in this picture as being essentially one of two types. So on the left-hand side, lawyers who are using the system to enhance their productivity, they're consumers of the output of the technical system. So they don't really need to understand what's going on inside the system. They just need to be able to understand what its limits are and then to be able to use the output effectively in the processes that they're doing themselves. On the right-hand side, those lawyers who are working in multidisciplinary teams, we could see these as producers of the technical system. So they're working to produce the outputs of those systems. So we can characterize this, or we can look in a little bit more detail at the types of uses for which AI is being put in legal services. So this is a summary of results from our survey, which we carried out in 2020, and it shows that legal research is the most commonly used task for AI, and the AI tools supporting legal research have improved, in fact, since then. So we would expect this number to be increasing all the time. Two other very common uses for AI are due diligence contract analytics. So both of these essentially reviewing contractual documentation to see whether or not it is consistent with a rule book of terms that are thought to be desirable or undesirable, augmenting human lawyers by doing that more quickly. And the other well-established use case is with technology-assisted review in an e-disclosure context, so searching through electronically stored information to find material that's relevant for a contentious matter. Now, to put this in the context of our categorization of different types of task, these use cases where AI is deployed, the actual work that's being done here is a substitution for humans. So in terms of the due diligence or the technology-assisted review, they're substituting for work that previously would have been done by humans. And then the output of these tasks, so the due diligence report or the e-disclosure report, augment the productivity of human lawyers who are working on the matter by enabling them to conduct the review exercise more quickly and thereby spend more time on the parts for which they have unique ability to proceed. However, what about the new tasks that these systems create? Well, as I hinted before, the way in which these systems are deployed is a quite different way of working to how lawyers traditionally work. And the key to understanding it is that it is essentially a production line. So as one interviewee that we spoke to from an alternative legal services provider put it, what you need is a solution to manage the matters, keep track of all of them, manage who's working on them, the delegation, the workflow. It's more like a production line kind of technology. And we can visualize this production line with this diagram, which we produced to capture the AI delivery pipeline as it looked circa 2020, 2021. And in this, what's needed is a mixture of legal and non-legal expertise to make the system work. So the boxes below, the ones that are blue characterize professional expertise in law, and the ones that are orange are other sorts of professional expertise. And so initially, we need to specify the requirements for the task in question. We need to design an AI model that we would use to approach that. We need then to get data that we're going to use for the model to analyze. That data in past applications would have needed to be labeled for training purposes. With large language models, the training part of the process has become much quicker. So this part of the pipeline is now taking less time and has less work. The system then generates outputs, which then have to be reviewed. What we're still seeing with large language models is the need for very careful review of the output to avoid concerns about hallucination or results that are not based in real legal materials. Then once the outputs have gone through quality control, they then are put into a process involving a human lawyer, which would then be relevant to a client matter, and they have to be explained. So to put this back in context of the three-way impact of technology on legal work, what we see in this arrow here, the generation of outputs, underneath the machine is doing the work there. So that's the point at which there is substitution for what would previously have been done by humans. At the end, the output of this process is used by a human lawyer doing human advisory work or trial work, whose work is complemented and their productivity is increased by the technical system. But all these other inputs from lawyers, these are the new roles that the system creates. So these are roles that wouldn't have existed before the deployment of technology. And what's important to understand about these roles is that they are done as part of a multidisciplinary team, because other professionals, process mapping experts, data scientists, project managers, information security experts, these other types of expertise are necessary to make these systems function effectively. So what we found from our interview-based work was that successful deployment of AI-based law tech is associated with the assembly of multidisciplinary teams. That is, of the actual technical system itself is associated with these multidisciplinary teams. So that's the impact, or the three-way impact on the work of lawyers. Let's now turn to look at the impact on law firms. Here, it's important to just begin to remind ourselves that law firms tend to be owner-managed partnerships. And this is a consensus-driven form of democratic governance, because the default rule in a partnership is that the partners all have the opportunity to participate in the running of the business. And usually, of course, there's delegation to a management committee, but that default rule still creates an important salience of consensus in these organizations. Now, as we know, the Legal Services Act 2007 relaxed this, permitting alternative business structures within the UK, but owner-managed partnerships remain widespread and still the dominant form of organization of law firms. Now, the policy concern underpinning the Legal Services Act, or an important policy concern underpinning it, was a desire or a belief that there was a need for the raising of outside finance beyond which that which the partners themselves could supply in order to fund innovation. What our interviews revealed was a different concern, which is that the partnership form, a monodisciplinary partnership form in which the partners are all lawyers, creates a key tension regarding the recruitment and retention of human capital associated with non-lawyers. So that is, in these multidisciplinary teams that we have described, operating to deploy and run technical systems, the non-lawyer participants find that working in an organization where the governance is entirely in the hands of legal professionals is something that is a challenge. So as one interviewee in a law firm put it to us, we're obviously a very good firm with a good brand name associated, but in terms of access to young talent in the software space, they normally don't want to join a law firm. They want to go and work for a cool software company. So the point about working for a company or working for a law firm, we found as we investigated this, probably goes deeper than just branding and has to do with the promotion and career opportunities within the organization, and the fact that a corporate form, it's possible has a specialist managerial hierarchy usually, and within that, multidisciplinary teams can be put together, and the promotion and recruitment pathways for the members of those teams are according to the contribution to the team without any distinctions drawn around their disciplinary background. So an example from a corporate legal services department that had been deploying legal technology was in which the interviewee said that their team has a seasoned business analyst, an ex-legal engineer from a large law firm, a very seasoned program manager, a big data analyst, someone who was in a sort of small consultancy doing law firm tech, and someone who'd worked for a legal data provider. So a wide variety of different skill sets brought together in a multidisciplinary team. Now, this is not to say that law firms are not able to put together multidisciplinary teams. All large law firms are now doing so, and they're working hard to develop these. It's rather a question of where the emphasis will be. So where's the emphasis in the organization? Will it be on the technical systems, or will it be on the humans, the human lawyers? So in order to see whether there is an aggregate difference in the deployment of multidisciplinary teams in partnerships or law firms versus corporate entities, we asked our respondents to our survey, who were solicitors working in the UK. So some of these were working in corporate legal services teams, some of them working in law firm partnerships. We asked them which types of specialist experts they worked with on a day-to-day basis. And these were the list of people that we gave them. So did they work with paralegals and other lawyers? Did they work with legal project managers, process mapping experts, data analysts, data scientists, and IT or legal innovation experts? And we said that people who just worked with paralegals or other lawyers, we said that we could characterize them as not working in a multidisciplinary team, whereas people who said that they worked on a day-to-day basis with these other disciplinary backgrounds, we would loosely characterize as working in a multidisciplinary team. And what we found from the survey evidence was that there was a statistically significant difference in the incidence of multidisciplinary teams defined in this way as between law firms and lawyers working in corporate legal departments. That is, those working in corporate legal departments were significantly more likely to be working in a multidisciplinary team. So when we put that piece of evidence together with the interview findings about career progression within a law firm partnership environment for non-lawyers, we suggest that may mean that monodisciplinary partnerships may find it relatively more difficult to implement multidisciplinary teams. Now, what are the implications of this? So I want to turn now to implications in three different dimensions. So firstly, implications for lawyers. How are lawyers' roles evolving? So the classical legal advisory roles that we all imagine ourselves doing when we go to law school, these roles are going to continue for the foreseeable future, but they are increasingly augmented by technology. So what this means is that the quality of the work done by people in these roles should be increasing because more of the repetitive work is being done by technology. And on the other hand, though, the quantity of these roles may decrease. So assuming that the volume of legal services work remains the same, the quantity of these roles may decrease as technology does more. Of course, if the quantity of legal services work itself increases, then we may not observe that impact on quantity of human roles. Then for the new multidisciplinary roles that are augmenting the technical systems, the new roles that are created by the deployment of AI, this brings with it implications for new training and new career paths for professionals working in these dimensions. And they may or may not be called lawyers, and the difference will depend on whether or not they're actually going to be called upon to advise clients, because the outputs of these systems could be used by people who do have professional legal qualifications to advise clients, but still, for the system to work effectively, there will need to be people with legal expertise involved in the production line in the way that I described earlier. Now, when we talk about multidisciplinarity in the production of technology-enabled legal services, this could be facilitated in different ways. And the way that I've emphasized in the discussion, and the way that we found most law firms and corporate legal services teams are doing this is through bringing together lawyers and non-lawyers to work in teams. So people with different disciplinary backgrounds who are working together with a common goal. However, obviously, another way to do this would be for lawyers themselves to acquire technical skills, or people with computing backgrounds to qualify as lawyers. And so there'll be multidisciplinarity within the individual. Now, this takes longer because everybody's got to go through 2 sets of training. And so we would expect that this would be less common than bringing together people with 1 set of training in multidisciplinary teams, at least in the short run. What about the implications for law firms? So the question whether or not a law firm can easily implement a multidisciplinary team isn't the end of the discussion about the implications. It's just the beginning, really, because law firms obviously don't have to make the technical services themselves. They could buy them in from a law tech firm or from an alternative legal services provider. So we think, and I'll say a little bit more about this in a moment, but we think that ultimately this question comes down to what the core of the firm's business model, or what the core of the firm thinks its business model is. So firms, as most law firms do, whose business model is primarily advisory, that is humans providing legal advice, we would imagine they would be likely to remain partnerships because the partnership form is a form in which the highly skilled humans who are able to give that advice have autonomy and have governance over the organization, and therefore it is an advantageous form for recruiting those sorts of humans. And these organizations would be more likely to be consumers of AI-enabled legal services, that is, buying them in. On the other hand, firms whose fundamental business model is about the production of AI-enabled legal services might become corporations in order to facilitate the setting up and deployment of the multidisciplinary teams. Now, this isn't to say that there couldn't be mixtures of these two, that there couldn't be firms doing both, but we characterize these as ideal types just to bring analytic clarity to the discussion. Will law firms change their governance? So switching to a corporate form or an alternative business structure might facilitate multidisciplinary teams, but doing so is obviously not cost-free because it risks diluting the autonomy that lawyers themselves value in the partnership form. And so if the firm's key asset is the human capital of the lawyers, then it could be very costly to switch from being a partnership to being a corporate. Conversely, going back to what I said about business models, if the core of the business model in the future is about the technical systems and the humans associated with working with that, then the business form that would facilitate that kind of technical system would seem more appropriate. So there's then some thoughts about implications for the legal services sector and new business models that we see emerging in the sector. So we looked at these new business models as part of our research. And the classical law firm model we put here at the top, we call this a legal advisory model. The core of the value proposition is legal advice that is tailored to the needs of the client. The classical value creation is through billable hours. And these firms, because of the governance points that I was talking about, are likely either to see the AI-enabled legal services as an auxiliary or subsidiary function, or are likely to consume them where they're produced in another organization. What we're seeing entering the sector are firms that have business models that we characterize as legal technology. That is startups typically that are offering technology solutions or platforms, creating value through subscription and licensing, and firms who are pursuing what we call a legal operations model. In this model, they're not creating the platform themselves. They're using a platform created by a legal technology provider, but they're deploying the platform as efficiently as possible, using process efficiency and project management tools to deliver that service as cheaply as possible. And a number of alternative legal service providers fall into this category, and their pricing structure is different. They're typically offering a fixed fee for users. Now, both of these business models we could characterize as relying on multidisciplinary teams to produce AI-enabled legal services. The impact of technology is affecting the sector as a whole and the business models that are being pursued in the sector. Now, again, these three are what we might call ideal types. And so if we look at any given organization, it might be pursuing more than one of these. But in so doing, I think it's usually possible to discern which is the most significant and which are the auxiliary components. And so it will be the most significant that's probably driving activity. So finally, what are the implications for legal education, given that I'm Dean now of Oxford Law Faculty? Firstly, do lawyers need to learn to code? My answer to that is no, because lawyers can work in multidisciplinary teams and they can use AI applications without knowing how to code. And as the technology gets more and more sophisticated, the need to actually do the coding under the bonnet is probably less. What do lawyers need to learn, though? Well, lawyers who want to focus purely on traditional legal work and who will be using the outputs of AI systems in that work, that is, they will be consumers of the AI legal analysis, they need to know the potential capabilities of those systems to enable them to do their work more productively. And they also need to be aware of the limitations of the technology, so the appropriate quality control and the appropriate caveats to include when using it in their work. Lawyers who want to work as producers of AI legal services, that is, who want to work in these new roles, they will need to learn how to work in multidisciplinary teams with other technical experts. And this is something which most professionals in the sector, the way of approaching this will be through actual on-the-job experience working in a project involving a multidisciplinary team and building up expertise in that way. However, we in Oxford see a future for multidisciplinary legal education to prepare people as an option for working in these multidisciplinary teams. And so we have, as part of this research program, in the last few years, launched a pilot master's course in law and computer science. And this is a course that we run. It's open to our BCL and JUR and MLF students. and to MSc students in the computer science department. We bring those students of different disciplinary backgrounds together. We give them a seminar program of issues that are of academic interest at the intersection of these disciplines. We look at technology for law and law governing technology. And then we put them in project teams of 8, 4 lawyers and 4 computer scientists, and they come up with an idea for a legal problem that they can solve using the technical skills in their group. And this has been a fantastic experience for the students who've taken it. They've learned about the scope of what's possible. They've learned about the questions that are capable of resolution using existing technology, but most of all, they've learned a common vocabulary for working together. And so we're keen to continue to explore this. We don't see it as replacing traditional legal education. We see it as an addition that has a potential for future growth. And we're about to recruit as a faculty a position in the field of the law and regulation of AI, which we hope will complement this work. So I want to say now, in the moments remaining to me, a word or two about the Dean's Scholars Fund. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to deliver the Dean's Alumni Lecture to you this academic year as I step into the role of Dean of the Law Faculty, because it's a particularly significant for me this year, as I myself am marking 30 years since graduating from my own BA in law at Oxford. So this anniversary has been an opportunity to reflect on the transformative value of the education that I received here. Amongst other things, I'm grateful for the rigorous focus on the contestability of ideas and the diversity of perspectives to which I was exposed under the guidance of faculty members. I'm especially glad that this academic year, 4 new Dean Scholars, including Marcia, who you see in the picture on the slide, will begin their studies with us and benefit from all that Oxford has to offer. These students wouldn't be here without the generosity that you, our alumni, have shown to the Dean's Scholars Fund. Since this was established in 2021 by my predecessor, Mindy Chen Wishart, it's so far supported 10 talented graduate students to study here. These scholars are incredibly grateful for the academic and extracurricular opportunities made available to them through your support. More than this, however, I am grateful that they will be able to bring their exceptional minds to bear on pressing global issues and contribute to critical research, conversations, and understanding. Marcia, who you see here, and you see her words on the slide, is one of our current scholars, and she well exemplifies this potential. Her doctoral research, which is undertaken with our Sustainable Law Programme, focuses on the role of law in the net zero transition. In particular, she's researching the regulation of greenhouse gas and carbon dioxide removal. And the problem she's identified is this. While many governments around the world are making pledges to achieve net zero, no nation has a legislative strategy in place to scale carbon removal methods or regulations to govern the safe and ethical deployment of them. So rigorous research, such as March's work, will enable governments to develop evidence-based policies and bridge this regulatory gap. March is testament to the crucial impact of graduate funding. Nearly half of all our brilliant graduate offer holders have to turn down our offers owing to lack of financial support. It's not just a personal tragedy if young scholars can't study here. We as a society risk losing the transformative insights that their work can generate. These insights, through projects like March's, could reshape approaches to some of the world's most critical challenges. Because graduate student funding is so important, one of my priorities during my tenure as Dean is to make the Dean Scholars Fund financially sustainable, ensuring many more exceptional students can study here in the future and make powerful contributions to their fields. Your support has the potential to mitigate this loss of graduate talent and ensure that the energy and insight of scholars like Marcia isn't lost. I very much hope that you will join me in donating to the fund. We will be enormously grateful if you would like to join me and your fellow alumni in making a difference. A link has been posted in the chat, which will take you to the relevant webpage. Collectively, we have the opportunity to transform lives. I'd like to conclude our event today by expressing my gratitude to each of you for your extraordinary support. We truly value the impact our alumni community creates, whether through your generous contributions to vital projects like the Dean's Scholars Fund, or by dedicating your time and expertise to mentoring our students. Your contributions in all their forms are deeply appreciated.